"You will never do better than me." She said it while folding laundry. No raised voice, no venom, no drama. Her tone was flat, like a fact she had accepted long ago. She did not even look at me when she said it, just smoothed the hem of a t-shirt and moved on to the next. I stared at her hands for a moment. I could not decide whether to laugh or ask what she meant. I did neither. I said I was going for a run, though I had no intention of exercising. I drove around the neighborhood in silence for 40 minutes, parked in an empty grocery store lot and sat with the engine off. That sentence was louder in my head than the engine had ever been. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. People say cruel things when they are tired or frustrated. Maybe she did not mean it the way it sounded. Maybe it was about money, or maybe I had said something equally sharp that I could not recall. But I remembered everything. I always have. That night I watched her sleep. Not in a romantic way, not even in a bitter one, I just watched. Her breathing was steady. Her arm rested across my side of the bed. I studied the lines around her mouth, the softness in her jaw when she let herself relax. For a moment I remembered the first time I saw her in a white sundress on a 4th of July morning, the kind of memory you expect to smile at, but it hurt instead. Because now I wondered whether she had already decided then that I would never be enough. The first real crack appeared 3 days later. A charge for a high-end spa popped up on our joint credit card. She had never been there before, not in that part of town, not at those prices. I asked her about it casually over breakfast. She did not flinch. "I bought a gift card for Madison. She has been going through a rough time." Her voice was smooth, not defensive, not evasive. She poured her coffee slowly. I nodded. I said nothing more, but I wrote it down digitally and mentally. That was the moment I stopped trying to feel better and started trying to see clearly. I began watching her the way a chess player watches an opponent: patterns, timing, strategy. Her phone never left her hand now. She started wearing makeup for grocery runs. She claimed to be too tired for dinner but spent 2 hours on Zoom with a vendor. The old version of me would have believed her. This one took notes. She did not know I still had access to our shared cloud storage. She had forgotten that I set up the automatic backups. That is where I found the first name: Kyle. The name was not saved under her contacts. It came from a photo, one she had taken of a gym whiteboard, his name circled in red ink. I remembered her telling me about him 2 months ago. "Kyle is just a trainer," she had said. "He is helping me get back into shape." I remembered nodding, supportive, asking if she needed new workout gear. She smiled then. She had touched my shoulder and said, "You are sweet." Now I looked at that same smile differently. I remembered exactly how it felt, how careful she had been with her words, how little eye contact she made when she said them. Over the next 2 days, I traced every mention of Kyle across her messages, calendar entries, and private notes. I found his Instagram. He was younger, overconfident, always posting shirtless photos with motivational captions. Her name was never tagged, but the locations matched her calendar entries. So did the dates. Still, I said nothing. We went to dinner Saturday night. She wore a new dress, said it had been on sale. She laughed through the whole appetizer, told a story about a coworker mispronouncing quinoa at lunch. I nodded, smiled when expected, poured her more wine. She held my hand across the table. Her thumb traced lazy circles over my knuckles. I let her, because now I was no longer her husband in that moment. I was something else entirely. I was watching from a place above and outside of it, detached but deliberate. She had no idea. That was the point. When she leaned in and whispered, "You have been so good to me lately," I only replied, "So have you." And I meant it, because her performance was flawless. But I had seen the script, and I knew what came next. On Sunday, I cloned her phone. It took 15 minutes and a memory I had not used in years. She had once joked that I was the reason she never forgot her passwords. I played dumb when she forgot them. I helped her recover everything. She laughed. I remembered. And now I used those exact details to mirror her device onto an old phone I kept in my desk drawer. She had not touched that drawer in years. That night, while she slept, her other life lit up on the screen next to me. Text messages told stories she never would. Not all of them were to Kyle. Some were mundane. Others were coded. A few were bold enough to sting. I needed that today. You are my escape. That one came from Kyle. Sent 3 days ago after what she told me was a back-to-back meeting day. She had come home exhausted, fell asleep early on the couch. I covered her with a blanket. Now I watched her tell another man that he was her peace. Her replies were shorter. You always know what to say, followed by a fire emoji. But it was enough. The emotional weight was not in her words, it was in her silence with me. The next name came from her calendar, David. That one had a professional context. Meetings, strategy sessions, calls. I dug deeper. He was older. Board member at a firm her company wanted to partner with. His emails were bland, polite, corporate until they were not. Your insight is always the highlight of my day. That could be innocent. Until I saw the late-night email trail, personal addresses, not company ones. The way she described me. He is comfortable, safe, the kind of man who never asks questions. I stared at that sentence for too long. I wanted to laugh or throw the phone, but I did neither. Instead, I clicked Save as PDF, labeled it with the date, and filed it with the rest. Her betrayal was not an accident. It was not one mistake spiraling out of control. It was a system. A parallel life with guardrails, protected time slots, careful language, and strategic omissions. It was professional, polished. I realized then I was not dealing with impulsiveness. I was dealing with calculation. By Thursday, I had every message between her and Kyle for the past 6 weeks. I created a spreadsheet, locations, timestamps, lies told to me. There were patterns. Gym sessions that lasted too long. Errands that ended too far from home. A few daytime meetings that did not exist on her work calendar. She had an entire narrative built on my presumed ignorance. She never imagined I would watch without reacting. She mistook my silence for weakness. That was her first mistake. The second came Friday evening. She kissed me on the cheek while I was cooking dinner. Her phone was on the counter. A message preview lit up from Kyle. Same hotel tomorrow, I booked it. She did not look down. She was too practiced now. Turned toward the wine rack instead. I reached for the salt. Big plans this weekend, I asked. She smiled. I might do a spa day, maybe meet up with Madison. I nodded. Sounds good, let me know if you need me to drop you off. She glanced at me then, a half second too long, the flicker of a question she did not ask. Then it was gone. I turned the burner down and stirred the pasta. My hand was steady. My face was calm. Inside, something had changed. I no longer wondered if she was lying. Now I wondered what else she thought I could not see. She left early Saturday morning, said she was meeting Madison for brunch, wore her hair differently, carried a gym bag instead of a purse, hugged me a moment longer than usual before walking out the door. I waited until her car was halfway down the street before I opened the mirrored phone and confirmed what I already knew. Hotel reservation. Downtown. Same place as before. Room 714. I watched the location pin settle into the map like it had done this same dance before. She had turned off her location sharing with me weeks ago, but not with her cloud account. That small oversight was all I needed. That and the hotel's digital check-in confirmation still sitting unread in her inbox. I did not follow her. Not physically. I already had the proof. I had the time-stamped messages, the intimate photos saved in a hidden album, the calendar entries edited to remove traces of him. I had enough to end it twice over. Instead, I went to breakfast alone, sat outside, brought a book I did not open. Around me, the world moved normally. Conversations hummed, cups clinked, a dog barked across the street, and somewhere not far, my wife was lying to someone else while lying beside him. She texted me at noon. Love you, hope you're having a relaxing day. I stared at the message. I imagined her fingertips typing it, her face tilted away from him in bed. It made me nauseous. Not because of the image, but because of the ease. That was what stayed with me, the ease. That night we watched a movie together on the couch. She curled up beside me, warm, familiar. She laughed at the right parts, made popcorn halfway through. She looked over once and smiled. I looked back and mirrored it perfectly. There was a hollow sound inside my head during all of it. Not sadness, not anger. It was quieter than that. A kind of hum that made everything else feel muffled. I slept beside her, but I did not sleep. The space between our bodies on the mattress used to mean comfort. Now it measured betrayal. Sunday morning she made pancakes, played music in the kitchen like she used to. She danced while flipping the second batch, humming along. I sat at the counter, watched her carefully, every movement rehearsed, every gesture within range of old routines. If I had not known, I might have believed this was real, but I did know. And once you know, the lie plays on loop. She asked what I wanted to do that day. I told her I needed to run a few errands alone. She kissed me on the cheek, said, "Take your time." I drove to a lawyer's office. Her name was Emily Price. She had been recommended by a former colleague. I had not told anyone yet, not even my closest friend, but I told her. I showed her the files, the messages, the financial records. She listened without interruption, took notes, asked precise questions. "How soon do you want to proceed?" she asked. I told her not yet. I was not done watching. Emily nodded once. "You will need to move quickly once you do." "I will," I said. "When I move, it will be final." That night my wife curled into my side again, her breath warm on my shoulder, her hand traced small circles on my chest. "I love this version of you," she whispered. I said nothing, not because I could not speak, but because silence was now sharper than any reply. The second man's name was not Kyle. It was David, older, wealthier, calculated. I found him buried in a folder of email PDFs she had saved to a private cloud. She had titled it innocuously, "Consulting Notes." Inside, he appeared in conversations filled with compliments cloaked as feedback. Then the compliments stopped pretending. "You are brilliant. If your husband cannot see that, he is blind." That message was sent at 11:47 p.m. 2 months ago. That same night, she told me she was staying late to prepare a quarterly brief. She came home tired, kissed me on the cheek, and said her brain was fried. David worked with one of the firms her company wanted a partnership with. She had been aiming for a director-level promotion. I remembered her being especially focused that quarter, traveling more, talking in code, changing passwords. Now I knew why. The relationship with Kyle was emotional, physical, casual. With David, it was strategic. She had positioned herself beside influence. And she had packaged her marriage as dead weight to make the narrative work. "She does not speak ill of you," David wrote in one of the later messages, "but she paints herself as alone." That line landed hard. I imagined the version of me she had offered up to this man. Cold, dull, unseen, a placeholder, someone to endure while she climbed. And in that moment I understood this was not about love, not even lust. It was leverage. I checked the financial records again. Over the past 8 months, she had moved more than $40,000 from our joint investment accounts into a newly established trust fund under her name. Some of it was disguised as home improvement reserves. Some was labeled estate planning. She submitted a withdrawal in my name without my knowledge or permission. I printed everything. I stopped sleeping in our bed after that, but I did not tell her why. I said the mattress was hurting my back. She offered to switch sides. I declined. We moved through our home like seasoned actors, polite, light-hearted, empty. On a Thursday, I made dinner. She complimented the seasoning, said it reminded her of our early days. I nodded. That same night, I had her gym fob cloned and checked its entry logs. She had not been to a workout class in 6 weeks, despite telling me she had met with her trainer 3 times a week. Kyle was not training her. He was helping her lie better. That weekend, I ran into a mutual friend at a grocery store. She looked uncomfortable. "You two doing okay?" she asked carefully. "Of course. Why?" She hesitated. "Nothing, it is just the way she talks about you lately. It feels off." I pressed, but she would not elaborate, just said something about work stress, pressure, and how people say things they do not mean. When I got home, I logged into her voice memos. She had one saved 3 days ago. It was a rehearsal. "I stayed because I believed in us, but he stopped seeing me." I felt invisible in my own marriage, rehearsing heartbreak, practicing how to win the sympathy of strangers, preparing the lines she would feed to friends, lawyers, anyone who needed a story. It was not just betrayal, it was premeditated character assassination. She had planned to leave me, but she wanted to do it from the high ground, so I took it from her first. By the time I opened the email from her attorney, I had already filed with mine. The message was clean, direct, and falsely concerned. She was requesting a low-conflict transition due to emotional neglect and long-standing marital dissatisfaction. Her language was careful. She was building a narrative brick by brick. I knew where she had learned it. David had used the same phrasing in one of his messages. I forwarded the email to Emily. She called me within 10 minutes. She has been preparing this for months, she said. We need to move. We did. Over the next week, I froze our joint accounts, rerouted all paychecks, and transferred my half of the investment assets to a secured trust in my name. I filed a legal challenge against her unauthorized withdrawals. I notified the bank of the forged signature. They flagged her transactions. They froze her access. She found out that Friday night. We were sitting on the couch. She reached for her phone, glanced at it, then froze. Her fingers tightened around the glass. "Something wrong?" I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed. She turned her face slightly, calculating. "Bank app is glitching. I will check it later." She stood up and walked to the kitchen. I watched her silhouette. The poise cracked for just a moment, not a full break, just a hesitation in her step. I logged that too. That night she sat up in bed, typing furiously. I waited until she fell asleep before opening the mirrored device. She had messaged David. "He is moving money. I think he knows." His reply, "Stay calm. Stick to the story." That line settled cold in my chest, not because of the betrayal but because of the audacity. She was not trying to escape a bad marriage. She was trying to manufacture one. The next morning I sent a digital packet to her attorney complete with chronological proof, her affairs with both Kyle and David, the financial misconduct, and the audio file of her practicing her testimony. I attached a statement of intent to seek damages. I expected rage, or panic, or denial. What I got was silence. She did not come home that night. At 2:13 a.m. I got a message from her. "We need to talk. I never wanted it to go this way." I stared at the screen for 10 full minutes before locking the phone. I said nothing. Over the next 3 days, the fallout spread. David stopped replying to her messages. Kyle blocked her on every platform. Her firm launched a quiet internal audit after receiving documentation of her professional relationship with David and how it may have violated internal ethics clauses. That package had no return address. It did not need one. She came home finally on a Wednesday afternoon. No makeup, eyes sunken. She stood in the doorway like she was waiting for a line in a play she had not rehearsed. "You blindsided me," she said. I looked at her evenly. "No, I waited, I watched, and then I responded." She took a step forward. "I was trying to build a future. With Kyle or with David." I kept my tone flat. She flinched. Her voice broke. "You stopped being present. You checked out. I needed more." I nodded slowly. "And instead of saying that, you lied, manipulated, and planned to destroy me." She started crying. I did not move. The moment stretched long. Her sobs filled the room. My silence filled more. I did not argue. I did not shout. That would have given her something to point at. Instead, I remained still, with nothing left to offer except the truth between us. After our confrontation, she tried to regain control. She contacted mutual friends, hoping to pivot the narrative. She leaned on phrases like emotional distance, years of silence, and I was already gone before I ever strayed. Some listened. Most did not, because while she spoke, I sent them truth, not opinions, evidence, screenshots, email threads, location logs, audio clips. I sent nothing cruel, nothing vindictive, only clarity, the kind that burns through performance and reveals intent. A week later, I received a message from her former friend, Alyssa. She had hosted our engagement party years ago. "I am sorry," it read. "I did not know. She made it sound like you had stopped caring." I did not respond. It was not about winning people. It was about no longer defending myself against a lie she had rehearsed too well. Then came the professional fallout. Her company's HR department reached out to her after receiving documentation of her relationship with David. The files included messages suggesting preferential treatment and an upcoming promotion she had been circling for months. They opened a formal review. David resigned quietly the following Monday. She was placed on administrative hold pending investigation. She came home that night, shoulders slumped, eyes red. She did not speak. She sat at the dining table, stared at nothing. I stayed standing. "You sent it, did you not?" she asked eventually. I said nothing. "I built everything from scratch. I worked for years. And you tried to destroy mine for leverage," I said. "That is not ambition, that is cruelty in disguise." She looked up. Her eyes searched my face, maybe for softness, Maybe for the version of me she used to manipulate. He was gone. She left the next morning, did not pack, did not argue, just left. The divorce hearing came 2 weeks later. She entered with a new attorney, quieter, less confident. She did not contest most of the terms. The court awarded me full control of all joint financial holdings. The trust fund she created was deemed marital property due to forged authorization. She received a reduced share of assets, no maintenance payments. Outside the courthouse, she asked if I would speak with her privately. I agreed. We stood near the edge of the parking lot beneath the shade of a maple tree. She looked at me, her expression tight with something between regret and confusion. "I did not expect you to fight me," she said. "I know." I kept my eyes on her, steady, not cold, just done. She gave a hollow laugh, then looked down at the pavement. "You always let things slide." "No," I shook my head slowly. "I used to choose peace. That is not the same." She nodded, the motion small and uncertain. Her voice cracked when she spoke again. "Do you hate me?" "I do not." There was no hesitation in my answer. Hate took energy. I had stopped giving her mine. She studied my face, searching. "Then why are you looking at me like that?" "Because I no longer see you," I said. She opened her mouth to respond, then stopped. She reached out barely, then pulled her hand back. I watched her walk away. Her steps were slow. Her spine was less straight. That was the last time we spoke in person. She lost her promotion 3 days later. David's departure had rippled wider than she predicted. Her name was quietly removed from the company's succession track. Kyle posted a photo with someone new, younger, smiling. Her name was not mentioned. Every lie she spun unraveled publicly, not because I shouted, but because I knew the power of silence paired with truth. The house felt different once her presence no longer haunted the routine. Not better, not worse, just quieter, cleaner. The air no longer held rehearsed affection. I no longer had to filter truth from performance, but I did not feel triumphant. This was not victory. This was survival with edges. Some mornings I still woke up half expecting to hear her footsteps on the hardwood. Muscle memory does not dissolve with court filings. It fades slowly, like fog that pretends to lift before creeping back around your ankles. I kept my distance from people for a while. Mutual friends reached out, some with guilt, others with hollow apologies. I accepted none. I forgave most. I trusted few. Alyssa called once more, asked if I wanted to meet. I declined. "I hope you find someone who sees your worth," she said. "I already did," I replied, and I watched her try to sell it off in pieces. Work became my anchor. I poured into projects, sharpened my routines. Not to avoid grief, but to remember what I looked like before I started dimming myself to make room for someone else's resentment. One night, months after the papers were finalized, I attended a private industry gathering. Nothing public, nothing dramatic. Just faces I used to know, conversations I used to enjoy. That was where I saw her. She was standing near the bar, alone, holding a drink she was not sipping. Her dress was elegant. Her posture held its usual confidence, but her eyes moved restlessly. She spotted me. Her smile flickered, unsure. I nodded, polite, neutral. Walked over slowly, like someone approaching the edge of a ledge without knowing the drop. "You look strong," she said, choosing her words carefully. "So do you," I replied. I meant it. The makeup was heavier, the lines more visible, but the strength was there, frayed but intact. There was a pause. She waited for me to say more. I did not. She lowered her voice. "I never expected things to end the way they did." She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Do you think we ever know?" I said, not unkindly. She looked away for a moment, then back at me, searching. I held her gaze without apology. "I know," she whispered. She blinked, looked down, then she nodded. "I deserve that." Another pause. "Is there someone else?" she asked. I shook my head. "No one I would bring into the wreckage of someone else's war." She almost smiled, almost. "I hope you're happy," she said. I held her gaze. "I hope one day you learn to protect the things you say you care about." That ended it. She turned and walked away. No tears, no anger, just distance. As I left the building that night, the city lights felt sharper, the air cooler, my pace steadier. She once told me I would never do better than her. She was wrong, because I did not just do better than her. I became better without her, and she had no choice but to watch.